All right, Max, take it away.
Well, since we all met earlier in the week and I went through all the business processes that I wanted to show, I think today is really just I'm here to answer any questions you might have, or if there is anything you would like me to show you that was either unclear the other day we met, or that I didn't show, or that you so much fun you want to see again. So but I guess we could start with the questions that I received by email from you, Lakia.
Yeah, those were from Margaret, and she's not even on the call, and I don't see Stephanie on here either. So, I mean, we can go over them just so everybody else knows what the questions
Okay.
were and the answers.
Do you think you could display them?
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So these were the questions that were asked in reference to the first one as far as the MOA.
Okay. Yeah, and that one I could talk a little bit more to. I know the MOA is quite important, and who signed it, or accepted it rather. So the way it works is the first user for a supplier that accepts the MOA. So if they go in and register themselves, whoever registers them needs to accept the MOA as part of the registration, right? Otherwise, they can't even submit the form.
Right.
So, or if they're state entered and they get invited to become self-registered, the first user that accepts that invitation needs to accept the MOA, right? That user ID and the date that it gets accepted gets saved in the system on the supplier record, right? So that is the official date that the supplier accepted the MOA, and that is, the user on record, so to speak, that did that. Now, any subsequent users that log in, so if you have a vendor that or supplier that registers, they accept the MOA, and then later on there are more users added to this supplier, and every user, when the first time that they log in, will be forced to accept the MOA in order to be able to log in.
Okay.
But that will be stored on the user level, so it won't change anything on the supplier level. So let's say the first user accepts the MOA on October 1st, another user comes in on October 20th. The date for the supplier will still be October 1st, right? But we will have, as I said, every user that has logged in will have to have accepted it, and that can be helpful if the original user leaves the company, and no one that's a user will be able to say, no, I have no idea, I haven't seen this. So that was a little bit more than just answering that question, but yes, it will still record the username and ID.
Okay, so for that example, can you pull up an account, and because I know we have the MOA history, can you pull up the account and then show where that information is? And I can stop sharing.
Where did we put the MOA history? So I know we're storing it, but
Yeah, when you log into the supplier account, it should be on the company information screen right below the MOA.
there it is. And where do I share my screen here? There we go. There. All right, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just first see if this was a good example or not. It might be, because so this user has, this supplier has two users. And And this one, that was the one that originally registered and accepted the MOA on 10/10, right?
Right.
And we go to the company information and we go down here and the MOA history. Well, not very exciting, but it says that new self-registration and self-register, right? And then if we look under contacts here, we can see that we have this second contact here that has not accepted the MOA, which leads me to believe that this contact has not yet logged into the system.
Right.
So this could actually be a good example. So for those of you that were on the last call, what I'm going to show you now is nothing that you can do in the live system. This is just a test system type of thing. But you can pretend to log in as the supplier, again, only in the test. And so I just need to find this. And I'm going to show you what the supplier will see. So this would be this, that second user for the supplier that has been invited. So they got an invitation email. When they go in to log in the first time, this is what they will see. You have to accept the EVA MOA in order to continue. They have to read through all of this, or like we all do, ignore it and scroll to the bottom. Accept it and acknowledge. And then they are in as a user and can do all their supplier things. Now, if we were to go back to, I would have to log out here and log back in as myself, being the internal user.
We have a question in the chat, Mots, that I want to address. So it says, does only one person for a given company must accept the MOA? So in order for the vendor or supplier to register with EVA, they must accept the MOA upon registration. If they don't accept the MOA, they can't move any further. They can't submit their registration.
Correct.
So yes, they must accept the MOA upon registration, and any other users that they add to the account, once they submit the email to them for them to log in, upon logging in, they must accept the MOA as well.
Right. Now I'm going to go back into the supply. So this is the view that you guys would see. Hoping this was the right one. Let's look at contact. It was not the right one. So it was the other one. So this is 86. Sorry about that. It's 84 I was on. So now we can see here 1014, the MOA was accepted by this user, Bonnie. And so we have that record of both users having accepted it, but under company information, we still have the original user that accepted it. And the MOA history will only show that because the MOA history is for the supplier themselves. So in most cases, it's just going to be this one entry, but if it would be accepted and rejected back and forth, it would be traced there under MOA history. So
what
that
information is under that other tab, Mots, where it says see accepted MOA? What
oh,
information?
that's just the MOA text.
Oh, okay.
That was accepted, and
Okay. And they can download.
yeah, this is there just because in case the MOA would ever change.
Right.
And I don't think we changed it in 15 years, but if it would,
No.
you know, you can always go back and see, well, which version of the MOA did they actually accept? So,
Okay.
all right. So what was the next question I've been asked?
It was about the EVA fees in reference to the MOA, but I'll just have Margaret put in a ticket for that because I know we're not doing any enhancements right now until after go live. So I'll have her put a ticket in for that on whatever verbiage they want to change on the MOA or buttons they want to add.
Okay, yeah. And that is for anything where anyone has a suggestion or a need, or something that you feel should work differently, right?
Right.
The process will be to put in a ticket, and then that ticket will go through the vetting process, and it would be and it will be vetted against other tickets that have been entered, and then will be decided if it's going to be done or not, and when it's going to be done, etc. So, and that's something that's going to go to Shane and others to decide. So, but
Okay. And then in the chats, so Ethel, she said, so real-time update. So everything that's updated in the system is real time. I know you said a certain time, it's a certain time that everything refreshes. So can you explain that again for the new
okay,
phone?
yes.
Okay.
So in iValua, whatever is updated is real time, and unlike current EVA, where we have two different systems, main systems, Advantage and sourcing and contracting, right? And the Ariba, the email. Here we only have one system, so that information is updated real time. Now, some systems and reports read data from data warehouse, right? Data warehouse is not updated real time. So the way it works is that and I have to double check, 2 or 3 hours, every 2 or 3 hours, data warehouse goes in and grabs the latest data from iValua. So there can be a lag up to 2 to 3 hours for a supplier change to make it into data warehouse. And then systems that then rely on data warehouse data, right? So Logi reports, or I think billing, or I know billing, and so on, will have that lag. So does that answer the question? And if you have any specific systems you want to know about, or any specific places that you would go in, if it would be real time or not, please ask me and I'll try and answer.
Yes, Ethel said that did answer her question. Thank
Okay.
you. Do you have any other questions or anything else that anyone wants to see that they didn't understand from last session? Or for the newcomers, is there something that you want to see as far as the supplier registration or how to search for the suppliers? Okay, well, let me go back to the questions that we had. Well, you answered the questions about the SWAM, the SVSD. But for those on the call, can you go over how that works? How
All
EVA
right.
receive the SVSD?
Okay, absolutely. So EVA gets the SWAM information from the SBSD system, and we call that system. That system has a couple of web services that EVA calls to get that information. So when a supplier registers, or actually during the onboarding process is when it happens. So when you go in to activate the supplier, we will take the supplier's tax ID and we will send it to this SBSD web service. And if this supplier has any SWAM certifications, SBSD will send those back to us, and we will store that on the supplier record. And it will be stored. You will see it on the screen. here. And this field here, and more importantly, even you will go under documents and certs, SWAM certifications, and they will show up here as well. So that's all good for new registrations, right? Now, what happens if you have an existing supplier in EVA that all of a sudden gets SWAM certified? Well, we have a job that runs daily. So a batch job that runs daily and goes and calls another web service that SBSD provides. And we basically ask them, hey, have you had any updates in the last 24 hours? And they will send us back any updates they've had in the last 24 hours in their system. So if a supplier on their end with a certain tax ID all of a sudden got SWAM certification small and women owned, then they would send that back to us. We will update that supplier record here on our end. So we should always be in sync with them. You see here on the screen this button to add SWAM certifications. That is not something that you guys typically do, right? So we have that in there in case there is a need to add it for a specific supplier, but normally that is not something you would do. Now you would be able to go in though under here to see more information about that SWAM certification that came over from SBSD. So you would see the certification ID, the begin and end date, really, and the SWAM type. So that was that on SWAM.
We had something in the chat about changes for tax forms. Can you come off mute, Ethel, and ask the question in reference to the tax forms? I'm not sure what you're
in the current EVA, if a vendor has an update, or maybe they went from an LLC to a C Corp or whatever, and they would have to resubmit their like a W-9, their tax forms.
Mm-hmm.
Will this update in real time? Because currently when that happens, sometimes it could take a couple of days for it to actually show up, and a client's order might be waiting for them to get entered into EVA in order to do business. And it may take, I don't know if it has to go through Cardinal, or how would that work for the new EVA?
Okay, so let me tell you how it's going to work technically, and then like here can talk to process-wise how it's going to happen. So the supplier, was I still logged in as the supplier anywhere? No, that's me. And this is also as me. Okay. Let me just show you since we're on here. So I'm going to go in as Tommy Prim. See. Bear with me while I log in as this supplier. All right, so here I am. I'm a supplier. I've logged in and I want to submit a W-9. So I'll go and add this document. I will say the document type will be W-9.
Okay, great.
I will set the begin date, which is because you required field. I will find an attachment to put in. See if I can find any good ones. Any attachment really. I usually have just the test file somewhere. don't want to accidentally attach my vacation pictures or anything. All right. So this is what the supplier would do, right? And then they would save it and close it. And it will show up here, and the status will be approval in progress. So for W8 and W9 forms, right, they will put them in, they will instantly be in the system, but someone needs to approve them before they become valid. Now, if you, on the other hand, attach other documents and you do attach the vacation pictures, then that will go through without approval. So this is what's happening on the supplier side. Now, on the internal side, let's check. I have the same files, which is docs. I'm just going to go out of this supplier and go back into it, so I know it's updated. I'm coming back in here, and you will see pending approval on mandatory documents. So you would then go to documents and search, and you will see this form here, and you will see approval in progress. So it looks pretty much like it does for the supplier. And then you click edit on that one, and you can go in, you can view it, and you can, well, there it is, look at it, and you can approve it or reject it if it's not okay. But if you approve it, then the status will change here, and now it will be sort of legit and live in the system.
Okay.
So like here, do you have anything to add to that, like process-wise from your end?
Well, process-wise, once we approve it, then it'll be just approved in EVA. But Cardinal is there's some kind of bulk load that they run every day. But if they miss a supplier and the supplier goes back in and uploads the W9, they won't know that the W9 is uploaded. But they do have a report that they can run to see that the W9 is there. So it's all in how often Cardinal runs their process to see the W9s and their accounts. So
Now,
that could be what takes so long for them to see it in their system.
Now there will be no automatic updates or correlation between Cardinal and EVA.
No, Cardinal runs their own process to
Okay.
check for W9s.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then since I noticed, so this is in system test, and this is a supplier that I entered earlier in the week, I think. But I just realized that this error or warning message was up here. I know we talked about that in our last call, the duplicate check.
Right.
I don't think I ever showed it. This is what the message would look like. Duplicated supplier with supplier account 1586. See, this is 1584. By foreign ID, zip, and street. So those are the three fields we're looking at.
So if we click on that message, would it take us to that account? Or do we have to pull it up?
You'll have to pull it up, unfortunately. And in this one, it says foreign ID because I was playing around with a foreign vendor, but in many cases, it would be, the EIN or the SSN in this case.
So while you're on this account, can you show the process for when vendor support, when we go in and approve foreign tax ID accounts, how do we go in and change it so that the system automatically updates it to a dummy tax ID number?
Okay, so you have to do nothing there for that. So this is something we added to the system recently, and it's a dummy EIN. So what that means is that when you go in and register as a supplier, you have 5 different TIN types that you can choose. And 2 of them have EIN and 2 of them have SSN. The 5th one is a foreign tax ID. Well, what we realized when we did integration testing was that certain other systems that use our supplier data cannot handle a foreign tax ID that looks like this, or, that's not 9 digits. So what we did was, whenever someone uses a foreign tax ID behind the scenes, under the hood, under the cover of darkness, we enter a dummy 9-digit TIN number, a dummy EIN, I should say. You won't see it here on the screen because it is a dummy. There is a number range that is not actively used in the real world. Start with, I don't even remember now. Starts with like
I think it's
69 or
6-9 or
Yeah,
something. Because Rich,
yeah.
well, I did a test on this one, and then what he said I had to, once we make the account active, you have to click on the request information change. And then select foreign base. I have an EIN or foreign base SSN, and then it'll change the tax ID number.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's how you would see it to verify your test. So it's stored under the hood, because in I value, foreign tax ID, SSN, and EIN are stored in separate fields. So,
Okay.
but anyhow, yeah.
So for our process, business process wise, we don't have to go in. Once we make the account active, we don't have to do the request information change to make that dummy 10 appear. We just leave the account as is.
Correct. You
Okay.
just leave it as is. And then when for instance, when we send this data to Cardinal, we have this daily job that produces an XML file that we send to them.
Okay.
We will send that EIN that is under the hood. But you can't see it, not here at least. So there is a way to see it, where you can go into under analytics and write a query and see it. I actually don't know if your user IDs will be able to do that.
Probably not. I mean, we don't need the queries. I was just asking because that's what
Yeah.
the test had me do, and that's what Rich
Mhm.
said that we would have to do when we make the accounts active for the foreign.
Okay. Yeah, so your business process in the real system will be to do nothing there.
Okay.
But if the reason I was talking about the query and all was that if you're ever in contact with someone from like Cardinal or something, and they say, well, what is this EIN that you sent us, right? There are ways, you can't see it on the screen here, but there are ways to look it up. And
Okay.
that's something that we can help with as well, Rich or myself, if it ever comes to that.
All right. Let me see if any other questions. The other one was about the addresses. I think Margaret put on here where the vendors go in and change their payment address and think they've changed all of the addresses, about a message stating that they have other addresses. I don't think that needs to be added
Right.
to the system. I mean, she can put in a JIRA ticket to see if we're able to do that after go live, but if a vendor's going in to update their addresses, I'm sure they know they have more than one address type in the system because it's listed there when they go under addresses.
Yeah. So the way it works right now, right, is really like most of our vendors today will have the same address for all of them, right? So that's
Right.
why we copy the tax address to all the other ones. He has to show it like this. If the user, the vendor, or the supplier can do this themselves, or you guys can go in and do it and enter a different address. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works. And you can add as many payment addresses as you want.
Yeah, because most of them send in the contact and address update form anyway for us to go in and update their addresses on their accounts.
Okay.
But it'll still be good for them to be able to go in and update it themselves.
Yeah.
Which I think this is an easier screen from what's in the value, I mean, what's in EVA now. So it should be easier for them to go in and update their addresses and save it.
Yeah, I hope so. That's the
If not, we still have the forms. They can fill those out and we can.
yeah. No, but I mean that is such an easy change for a supplier to do. It would be way more efficient for everyone if they did it themselves, right?
Right.
And they do have still logged in as a supplier. Yes, Mr. Tommy there. So and they do have their Google. Google will help them. So instead of this, I'm gonna change their physical addresses now. And that, by the way, means Queens Street, Drottninggatan. So language lesson for today. But yeah, it's really obviously easy for them to change that. And address changes, if you remember, unless it's the tax address, will show up right away.
Okay.
There is no approval needed for those types of addresses. Or for
So
those
just
types
for
of
the tax
changes.
address, because they would need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
submit a request for information change for that, and then
Yeah.
once when the
Yeah.
support approves it, it'll change to other addresses.
Right. And
Okay.
that is going to be, I think, important for everyone that talks to suppliers, because unless they're trained, and they might not be, they're going to come in here and they're going to want to say, I want to change my tax address, or I'm going to want to change my year founded, my favorite example. And they can't do it, right? It's grayed out. What am I doing? What am I doing? Well, you have to click this button up here. Whereas if they go in and they want to change an address, as I showed, they can just do that right away. Documents and search the same way. They can just upload them, but if it's a W8 or W9, it will require approval. Contacts, they can go in and add contacts and contact information themselves. They don't need the information change request. And then I think it's worth mentioning with the information change request that, or worth repeating, I shall say, is that some of their changes will require your approval. So they will not take effect until one of you have gone in and said, yes, this looks fine. Whereas other ones are set to be auto approved. So they still need to fill out this form, but as soon as they submit the form, the change will take effect. So that is,
Yeah, so any tax information that they try to update, they can
Yeah.
save it or submit it for approval, but it has to be approved by vendor support. For like
Right.
anything like the year founded or DONS number or anything that's optional, it'll update in real time.
Yeah. And I hope you have a list of which fields, because I don't have it in my head, but I do know that the name, obviously tax ID,
Mhm.
and TIN type, tax address, org type would require approval.
Yes.
Don't know about the doing business as, I can't remember that one, but all right.
I think that was it, unless anybody else has any questions or anything that they want to see. We'll give you 20 minutes of your day back.
Yeah.
Good
And let me
morning.
just steal one of those minutes real quick.
Okay.
No, another thing I think is worth repeating is that each supplier record can only have one information change request going at a time. And I could just imagine that it could be that a supplier goes in and want to change something, right? So they want to change, again, my my favorite year founded, because no one cares about that. So let's say I'm the supplier, I go in, I do this, and I submit for approval, right? And this can be user Bobby goes in and does this, right? And then another user comes in later and wants to change something else, and they can't. And that is because there is already one pending. Actually, that was a terrible example. I apologize, because that one was auto approved. So it went through right away. Let's say Bobby here had changed the tax address, right? So that would be pending approval until you guys go in and approve it. So until you guys do, if Bobby himself or his brother Barry goes in and want to update something, this button won't be there.
Right, until it's
And
approved.
right. And I could just see questions coming through there. Like, why can't I update this? And that could be like the first thing you guys could go and look for when you open up this supplier record and going into your side here, the internal side. But under the change log, you can see the information change requests that have been entered. Now, these were both approved, but if it was one that was pending, you would see it here, and that would be the explanation. Okay, I'll stop now.
That's okay. So any questions, concerns? Anything you want to see? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Go ahead, Mats.
No, I said I was going to say this last chance to ask questions, but it really isn't. So if you guys need another session, or you have any questions, or need something to be shown to you, by all means reach out. I'd say go through Lakia, and we can set something up. And even if it's just me taking 15 minutes to show one of you something, I'll be happy to do that. So don't be afraid to reach out with any questions even after this.
Yeah, so any questions that I received, then I'll reach out to you, Moss, to see what your calendar, your availability is, and then we can set up another meeting. Because like I said, it's all the way through the end of this month, so we will have more meetings. But just depends on what needs to be shown, or if anybody have questions about anything that we need Moss to go over and show us.
Yeah. And obviously, if you have the time, going into the UAT environment or the training environment, and just trying to work through your business processes, I think that's really good use of everyone's time, because there are things you just won't notice until you really try clicking around and doing it. And it is quite, I really like the feature that I sort of skipped over, but when you can log in as the supplier.
I don't think everybody has that option.
Oh, they do not. Yeah. Then I shouldn't have said that. Okay.
I mean, they can create supplier accounts. They just have to create a different email address account to log into that account.
All right.
But, yeah.
Well, it would be good to have a supplier account to play with, for two reasons. One, if you really want to work through a business process, as I've showed the other day, most of the business processes, it's, supplier does something, internal user does something, maybe supplier does something again, and internal user does something again. So work that through, you need to have both sides. And then obviously, if you're ever going to, if you're going to talk to suppliers, it's really good to know what they have seen. So it's
right. All righty, well, thank you, Mats. You can go ahead and stop recording, Benita.